Mic's on.
Yes.
Time is now 6:32. The date is Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. Commissioner Vendetti is absent. We will take a roll call to open the meeting. Jim Franklin's here. Megan?
Here.
Kalina?
Not here.
Sorry. Dot?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian? Yes. All right. Please note that we are doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make a comment during the public hearing, please use the raise the hand function on Zoom, and you will be assigned a speaking time. If you are listening in via telephone dial-in, press star 9 to raise your hand, and then press star 6 to unmute yourself. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene, and a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they are able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. Hearing none. Announcement, the Kingston Conservation Commission is seeking a new member. Commissioners are responsible for protecting the town's natural resources, including through the enforcement of state and local wetland protection laws. Those interested should reach out to the Conservation Department by calling 781-585-0537 or emailing Matt Penneller at mpenella@kingstonma.gov. Signing documents. Will the agent brief us on what we have signed?
Invoices, Strong Tree Engineering for Bates Pond Trail Planning, Mark Leclerc invoice for purchase of black locust posts, reimbursement to myself for purchase of field supplies, Apex for Year 8 MS4 support, and Express newspapers for public notice posting.
Okay, thank you. Action items. We'll now continue a public meeting to discuss a request for determination of applicability at RDA for 28 Rabbit Road submitted by Steinbeck and Taylor on behalf of property owner Frank Tirico for proposed removal of hazard trees and treatment of invasive plants. Does the agent have any comments?
I can get into a quick summary, or we have had new materials since the last time this was discussed. I know they have a representative online if you'd like to hear from them first.
Sure. The representative, please step forward and provide your name and address and provide us the updates.
Good evening. My name is Julie Barry. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening. I represent Frank and Jennifer DeRico. I'm an attorney at Prince Lobel and Tye with an address of 1 International Place in Boston. And I'll just have a few remarks and then I'm going to turn it right over to Mr. John Rockwood, who will be much more capable of responding to any questions you have than I am. You've previously been, you've heard from my partner, Ann Sobolewski, in this matter. And I'm filling in for her tonight. So, as you know, this has to do with the continued hearing on the request for determination of applicability. It was continued in order to provide the report that I believe that you all should have now. It's dated, the letter report dated March 27th, 2026, concerning the areas proposed, formerly landscaped areas proposed for mowing and seeking approval for that, as well as the invasives plan for removal of those invasives. There was going to be a tree removal component here, but that has been taken off the table for the time being, and right now we're just focusing on these two issues. So without any further delay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Rockwood, who's here with us tonight from Ecotech Inc., an environmental scientist with great experience, and I'm sure he'll be able to present and answer any questions you have.
All right,
Thank you for your time.
just because you cut out there for a second, you said approving the proposed treatment for invasive plants, and then I believe you said that they were removing the tree removal. Was
Yes,
there something else?
Yes, that's correct. That's not part of this tonight.
So we're just talking about invasives?
No, they had added
Invasives and mowing.
They had added in mowing of what was called the hydroseeded area on the restoration plan from the enforcement.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Dr. John Rockwood. I'm a principal environmental scientist with Ecotech. I was retained through the DeRicos to go out and look at the property and provide some observations relative to what was there. and what we can do to make these areas better serve and protect the interests associated with the border and vegetated wetland and the river and the adjacent pond. I basically went out there. There's a lot. Do you want me to share my screen, or does the commission or agent want to
Can you
share the
assist them with
plan?
that?
You should be able to share, yeah.
Okay, can you see the plan?
Yes.
Okay, basically, the property is on Smelt Pond. Smelt Brook flows down the adjacent property line between 30 and 40 Rabbith Road. There's an existing gravel driveway or existing traveled way that leads down towards the existing dwelling number 30. There's a concrete driveway that's associated with 28 Rabbith Road. As part of a prior restoration plan, a portion of the site near the wetland on the opposite side of the traveled way from 28 and 30 was enhanced with shrub and sapling plantings, and it was also seeded. And Brad Holmes went out and looked at that and provided a positive review on that area fairly recently. So what I did is I went out and looked at it, and number 6 in my letter, we're no longer proposing to do. That's addressing the additional tree removal. That's no longer proposed. So there's really just 7 steps that are proposed, 7 activities. The first is the area within the blue bubble line is existing lawn at this point with three flowering dogwood saplings planted within it, and there's a couple other native trees in and around there as well. That area is proposed to be maintained as lawn. Basically, it's the area on the 30 and 28 side of the traveled way. So that's the first task, and basically this area is stable. It doesn't pose a risk of erosion to the adjacent and resource areas, and there's a concern about ticks proximate to the house. And ticks are found in meadow areas as well as forest field edges and those kinds of areas. So that's one of the primary concerns related to having an unmaintained meadow closer to the house. The second area is there's a brown bubble line area in this location. That's meadow with a lot of common mugwort and a couple of native trees. It's on a slope. It's currently not mowed, and what we're proposing to do there is demarcate it with 3 eastern red cedar along this edge. It's currently demarcated along the other edge with some pitch pine shrubs. We're proposing to go in there and pull out the common mugwort by hand and then overseed the area with a seed mix that's shown in the lower right corner of the plan that's on the screen. It's a mixture of some of the mixes from New England wetland plants. So we have a very good variety of species. And the intent is to provide sort of a pollinator type of garden in here. And that's important habitat that's missing in a lot of areas at this point. And that area would be mowed or cut once per year to keep woody invasives from establishing a presence within the area. The third is down along the existing compost sock down in this general area near the wetland boundary. There's 3 or 4 piles of decomposing lawn clippings, and there's a significant amount of fallen branches and other woody materials in this area. What we want to do is remove the lawn clippings and some portion of the fallen woody debris. No cutting of anything, just removal of stuff that's on the ground, and then redistribution of some of those materials so they have contact with the ground surface to provide better habitat features within that area. Such things are used by various small mammals, some reptiles, and also some amphibians for cover and for sort of, they burrow under them to provide a cover. And we're proposing to seed the bare areas with that same mix that's over on the bottom right of the plan. And then we are going to seed the area between the saplings and shrubs with that same seed mix. Again, this area would be cut once per year. It wouldn't be mowed, it would just be, you go in there and cut it maybe 6 inches tall just to keep the woody material, the woody invasives out. Care would be taken not to damage any of the existing saplings or shrubs. And the next area is area 4, which is the brown box. And that's basically some of what I just talked about. This area has been planted with about 100 shrubs and about 20 or so saplings of various species. Those materials were looking to be in good condition when I was out there. It was a little early for leaves, but there were certainly buds on most of them, and they look good. And there's also 4x4 posts shown on this plan that demarcate the development side of this restoration area. And again, we're proposing to seed this area between the plantings and then cut that once per year. That again, that's to provide some pollinator habitat and also habitat for some small animals and bird species as well as the insects. The 5th area is we're proposing, given the droughty nature of the state at this point, the entire state's technically still in a drought at this point. It got a little bit better, but then the entire state's currently within a drought. We're proposing to put an irrigation line in at the edge of the traveled way, outside of the bounds, sprinkler heads outside of the bounds, providing water towards the plantings that are there to facilitate growth of the herbaceous materials we're planting and also to facilitate keeping the existing plantings alive and in good condition. Again, the line would be installed outside of the bounds and essentially between the traveled way and the bounds. And the last thing that we're proposing as part of this plan is this orange area down by Smelt Pond. There's a significant amount of tree of heaven shrubs and saplings. They're all very small, so they can be effectively treated with cutting off at about 4 inches and blotting the stems with a concentrated herbicide. And we can use an herbicide that's formulated for aquatic conditions, so it won't move. And blotting the stems rather than foliar application allows a much smaller amount of herbicide to be used, and it also keeps it very controlled. I've had very good luck addressing actually even large tree of heaven. He uses a slightly different method, but it's a very effective method for eliminating ant species. And again, the idea is all of these activities will enhance the existing areas. The area is basically stable. There's not much likelihood of runoff leading to the wetland or to the river. And we want to try to increase the diversity of the upland areas that we are enhancing through different species. We have a good variety of woody materials in the restoration area. We're proposing to get some diversity of herbaceous plants in there and open those areas up to insects and birds as pollinator habitat. And we're looking to clean up the lawn clippings and debris within the buffer zone to the wetland. And we're looking to get rid of the knotweed that grows basically within this area here and also within portions of the restoration area. And the last thing is we want to get rid of the tree of heaven. All pretty much concentrated in one part of the site. I did not see sort of the mother tree. All I saw were smaller saplings and shrubs. And those are all readily treated. You know, the seeds could have come from any place, but I did not see any adult or larger, mature tree of heaven trees. Because they basically do produce a lot of seeds, but a lot of the growth is related to root suckers and sprouts. So if we get these treated, we can see if things come back or see what happens and follow up with that. And after the activities are completed that need to be completed, the commission will get a completion letter indicating the work that was done and the current status of the various six activities that are detailed in the letter and detailed on this plan.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
No, not at this time. We'll have Matt walk us through the staff report, and then if we have any questions, we'll address you directly.
Do you want me to leave the plan up or take it down?
And you can leave it up until Matt wants to bring something else up for this.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Just a question for you before I go through my findings. Do you know offhand if the kudzu there was ever treated? There was a concern last year about letting that go to seed, and I believe the commission gave verbal approval for that to be treated.
I did not see it there. I don't know if it was treated or not, but we can certainly look at the site, and if we see anything on the site that's invasive, address it.
I can respond to that as well, in that invasives had not been addressed, and I believe Ms. Attorney Sabluski discussed this the last time, because we did not have written approval from the commission to do that.
Okay. And before I get started also, just to pass on to the applicant that if there are any trees on the property that are a direct hazard to a structure there, we do have an administrative review process that's pretty easy. So if there's anything there that is an imminent hazard, they can definitely take that route while waiting on getting the rest.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Yep. And on this, I think I've said before, this was an issue of an area of, trees within the riverfront area that were cleared. That was part of the basis for the enforcement issue a couple of years ago. And when we started this RDA process, realized that was still being mowed. And the point was that, you would likely be able to have lawn over there, but that it should be permitted. And we went through a few meetings on this. There was a lot of discussion about, pre-existing conditions. Basically, the process has to be followed for the commission to be able to approve this. And based on everything that I've looked at here, this application does not do that. I appreciate all of John's work. He was very thoughtful about everything that he put together on this. But it uses pre-existing lawn as the baseline for a lot of his findings on this, and that from the commission standpoint is not what we're dealing with. We're looking at the fact that there was relatively intact riverfront area there, and there is no longer intact riverfront. There was evidence brought up, some photos, discussion of how some of this area had been landscaped for a long time, for decades. The photos did show there were some areas there, and that some of that is corroborated by aerial photographs showing that there was a garden area and that some portion of that area was mowed beneath those pine trees, beneath not just the pine trees, the trees that were on site. What this application in whole fails to do is show that that whole area was not in natural condition and that it was all maintained. Further, even if you had an area of maintaining grasses and other types of low vegetation underneath the trees, that doesn't mean that that area is not jurisdictional, that's not jurisdictional habitat still when you have canopy cover over it. So I think this application, while it does show some form of mitigation, does not deal with the mitigation from the standpoint of modifications to the riverfront area. So I don't think that the commission could approve continued mowing of that area based on what we have in this filing. Again, I think that's something that the applicant could get, just not with what the commission has in front of them right now. As
Can
far
we
as,
discuss it in pieces, Agent Pinella, rather than?
Yeah,
or do you-
we'll hold
or do you
off,
prefer
please.
to go forward?
No, we won't speak unless we address you. That's what I asked. I said, we're going to let Matt speak, and then if we have questions, we'll address you directly, okay? So we're going to
Understood,
hold
thank you.
off until you recognize that once Matt's done. Matt, please continue.
yep. So the only portion of this, particularly now that the trees have been taken away from this application, the trees, the commission wanted to talk to an arborist or have a site visit with an arborist. Really, the commission wanted to see the property, and that's not something that was facilitated. So I think that's also a problem for the commission, not being able to get on site. I'm the only one who's been on site, and that was some time ago. So that's, I think, another thing from the commission's standpoint, that they wanted to do a site visit to be able to assess the site and have not been able to.
All right, we're going to open it up to commission for questions. Do we have any?
No, I was just watching the attorney with her hand up.
Yeah, we'll come back as soon as we make the first pass before we go back for second passes. Comments from the commission?
I don't have many. I am concerned about the katsu that still hasn't been removed, because in my notes, we gave clear approval to remove that and mugwort back last September. We brought it up again, and it's been stalled, and here we are again.
All right. Any other items we want to discuss before we go back to the applicants for further information? Okay. All right, so Attorney, please bring us to what you wanted us to consider in response to Matt's comments.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So just to address the last comment, there has never been anything in writing from this commission approving removal of any invasives. There's never been any order, directive, anything. You're saying that you did it verbally. Right now, what happened tonight with Mr. Pinella is that the request for a site visit, which was for tree removal, which didn't happen, it was not for a site visit, an overall general site visit, it was for tree removal. And when that component was removed, there was no need for it. It couldn't work out on the days it were requested, as I understand it. But once the tree removal component was there was no issue. And I've seen the correspondence or the emails back and forth, and I know that there was never any subsequent request that there be a site visit by this commission for any reason other than tree approval. So there's never been any intent or desire to stop this commission from going on the property. Neither has there been a relevant request.
All right, let's hold off there.
Excuse me?
Nope, we're going to hold off there. We're going to hear, we got two different things coming at us. Matt
I
says that we did.
understand that, but I would
Nope.
like to address the issues about the
We'll
invasive.
mute you if we have to, okay? You'll be respectful, and when I say that we're going to hear if there's a disagreement, we're going to come to an agreement. Matt, did you request a site visit so that you could review the RDA?
For starters, I'll say that I didn't say that they're avoiding having you on the property or that there's anything there. Just the point is that the commission wanted a site visit. That site visit was requested. That hasn't happened. It may be that the original purpose for the site visit was specified as for the trees. It's hard to recall when we have an entire filing in front of us that's for multiple different things. I can't speak
Right, but
right
we
now
did
to whether that
request
was the
access
only
at
reason
some
why the
point as
commission
well.
wanted to be on the property was strictly the trees, but that was a big part of it, was that there were a lot of trees on there, and we had a vague arborist report that said, the trees were, in disrepair and need to be removed. But there was a site visit request. It was typically tied in because there were multiple things that were outstanding. It was an arborist report and a site visit. So we were reaching out saying, hey, we need the arborist report and we need to have the site visit before the next meeting. But there was no correspondence back saying there's no need for a site visit without the tree removal. So I put that in my staff report that the commission wanted to do a site visit. There was no site visit.
Good. All right, next point, ma'am.
So may I respond to that? I believe we have.
We're not,
emails.
we're just gonna stick with the next facts, so we've heard your position, we've heard the department's position, we'll reflect on that internally, but we're gonna ask you to stick to the facts and move to the next point.
Okay, so the next point is that we have provided a report from John Rockwood, Dr. John Rockwood, about environmental conditions. I've never had someone comment that they didn't request something like that in connection with a request for determination of applicability, but we went above and beyond and provided that, and it's quite detailed. And to address the point about this not being pre-existing, this was a vested use. This portion of the lawn area was there before and after construction of the house. All this has been made known to the commission back in December 29th with the letter from my partner Ann Sabluski. The house construction and the presence of landscaping around the house were approved by the commission. And as a result, this needs to be considered landscape, not natural area. And to that point, we're talking about a significant public health risk. I would like to point out to any of you who have
All right,
dogs.
let's
that
press
ticks
pause
are a
here.
big-
Nope, we'll
ticks
press
are a
pause
health-
here because I have questions and I'm gonna address the questions that are popping up. We're not gonna sugarcoat. So, Mr. Rockwood, you had laid out very concisely a number of areas, I think 6 totaling, where you, what I didn't see is I didn't see where the enforcement action or the field was in relation to that. Could you walk me through on your plan exactly where those areas are that was subject to previous enforcement action?
I did not review the prior enforcement actions. I
All right,
reviewed.
thank you. Okay. All right, so Matt, could you explain to us where those enforcement actions are better? Because I don't have a good memory of exactly what that plan looked like.
Yeah, it's
I know
roughly-
it was on both sides of the driveway. correct?
Well, originally, when you're talking about the enforcement action, you know, the action that prompted the commission to take enforcement was clearing of trees that seems to be about 1/4 of an acre, sort of between the two properties of 28 and 30. And that did go on both sides of the 2-track driveway. So trees were cleared, likely some sort of fill was brought in, even if it was just loam, grass or hydroseed. And that was what was originally done there. As far as the enforcement action, there was a restoration plan done, and that included seeding and planting on both sides of the driveway. Unfortunately, the commission only required conservation posts on the river side of the driveway because of the 2-track that was pre-existing, and that was likely a mistake. So then when we did a follow-up site visit, the area that had been on the upland side here that we're discussing now had been mowed after it had sprouted. And at that time, the representative, who was from Stenbeck and Taylor, had said like, oh yeah, they mowed that, I should talk to them about that, you know, and we'll reseed it, we'll reseed it. You know, there was an understanding with this enforcement process that that area was being restored, and that there was, you saw it on the plan, that there was a grass path that was shown, and I believe that grass path was something that had been pre-existing. And so my understanding at the time, that was an area that would be continue to be mowed between the two properties as a pathway, but not the entire area. That's not something that's ever been permitted. Speaking about, you mentioned the permitting of you know, a house and landscaping, that's strictly for 28 Rabbith Road. That's not for 30. Most of, you know, what we're discussing here, most of the activity on this, I believe, was related to 30 Rabbith Road, closer to Smelt Brook. 28 Rabbith Road was permitted in terms of construction, and I believe landscaping. I don't have a lot of, you know, detail on the landscaping there, but essentially, to get to the point of what you just said, the commission does not have evidence in front of them that the entire roughly 1/4 acre area that had been cleared, mostly on 30, but also slightly on 28 Rabbith Road, you know, was in a grass or maintained condition. Like I said, there is a portion of that that's clear from what they provided. We don't have enough evidence in front of the commission to say, okay, you know what, that area was in, you know, pre-existing landscaped condition with, you know, and like I said, even if the understory had been maintained like that, doesn't excuse clearing of
Right.
canopy trees. There's still, essentially what you have in front of you does not properly deal with the regulations for riverfront area and buffer zone.
Understood. Commission, we were all here, I believe, we were all here for this one. Matt's summary sits very squarely with what I recall of it. Does anybody recall it any different, that we had clear conversations about both sides getting the mix, and that, you know, we agreed that we could put because of the location of the driveway, that we could put the posts on one side of it. We didn't require them on the other side, but I think the intent was to reestablish the riverfront area in that area. Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay. So I guess at this point, we have a filing in front of us where the invasives, I think, is something that we can approve, and I don't think we can prove anything else at this point. So I think it makes sense to separate the two, vote on a -3, I think, for the invasives, because it's beneficial. They'll get the written documentation that they have, saying that they couldn't act on the previous action, and then if they want to come back, they're going to have to do some more work for the other part. But I think that gets us through, and they can get started on their stated intent of trying to make it a healthier little area.
I would
Is
like
the
to
board open
comment,
to that?
please.
I'm talking to the board right now, but I will come right back to you.
I don't object to them dealing with the invasive species.
No, invasives is fine.
I think that's important.
Megan?
Agreed.
Okay. All right, yep, please, if you have something.
Yes, I would like to add something. This hearing has gone on for quite some time. It is not correct that you do not have information or did not have information before this board concerning the history of that landscaped area. I'm well aware that Ms. Sabluski presented information. You've had Mr. and Mrs. DeRico also testify before this commission previously. So it's not correct. You didn't hear anything about the ticks, and that is a public health interest that really should be
All right, so
considered.
let me
I would
respond to you
like to
first.
finish, if I may
No,
finish.
you're not gonna just pile on, we're gonna respond to
I'm
you
not
first.
piling on, you have to let me finish.
Your first was that there wasn't information. I think you misunderstood what Matt was trying to explain, so I'm gonna ask Matt to explain it a little bit better to you about what he meant by that, because I understand what he means by it. So Matt, could you clear that up, please?
Right, I think I just said that there was evidence provided. There was photographic evidence provided, there was verbal evidence provided. It's not sufficient evidence for the commission to look at that and say, okay, that whole area was not in a natural condition. It's insufficient. You do not have evidence of that. So the commission would look at this and treat it as though that were a natural area or primarily natural area. It may not be the whole thing. Like I said, you don't have all of those facts. One of the things that I suggested in one of the first meetings we did on this was some sort of an overlay plan that shows different years of aerial imagery, or something where you can kind of tell how things over in the past, certain parts, depending on the way the shading is, that you can actually see certain portions of the yard that were maintained as grass. Any of those areas, you'd be considering that to be pre-existing turf condition. You can't say that about a quarter acre of trees that were cleared. You don't have the evidence of that in front of you. As far as ticks, we did discuss this. We've talked about ticks in every meeting that we've had on this. I sort of wrote in my staff report for the commission. I mean, I've had several tick-borne diseases. I understand there is this serious thing, but that doesn't make the wetlands regulations not apply. So if everybody in town wanted to clear a lot of their property so that they could add turf so they could have less ticks, it'd be pretty bad for wetlands protection.
That would be.
There are other ways of, and like I said before, you may be able to legally have turf here. It's simply that what the commission has in front of them right now, they can't say yes to that based on what's in front of them. But in the meantime, there are other ways to help with ticks. And by the way, in the meantime, the property's been mowed. I don't think you may correct me, but I don't think the property is currently in an unmowed condition. From all the photos that we had on the wetlands report, it appears to have been mowed, and it truthfully even looked like the area on the other side of the post had been mowed, and there's grass clippings over there. So I think it's something that they can work on and come back with an application that meets all of the standards and get what they want. And same thing with the trees. You can work through either the admin review process on the really dangerous ones in the meantime, or work on, another filing with the certified arborist and all of that.
All right, I'm going to go here. Megan, did you have something you want to add?
I would like to respond to, please.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I don't really, but Matt just reminded me that I am a little concerned now that if there's conservation posts and that they're being ignored and that there's grass clippings being dumped behind our conservation posts, that's also another issue that should also be addressed, that shouldn't be ignored. It's just,
Sure.
I can't even think of the word I'm looking for, but.
All right, so just what I heard from Matt's response is that we have language in the bylaw that basically points to cumulative impacts, right? If we allow this filing and then somebody else comes because we let them just tear down, the canopies up along the brook for the next house and the next house and the next house, that's where the cumulative impact comes from. It's not that this is the cumulative impact, it's that it could contribute to a cumulative impact if it becomes widespread. So from that perspective, I know where I'm leaning on this one. I'm wondering if we, for the purposes of our meeting tonight and what we have in front of us, if we're comfortable closing this public hearing on the RDA and moving forward with what I think we're comfortable with, which is a -3, and then we kick the rest of it down to another meeting so that at least they can get started and we can move on to a public hearings, which we're 20 minutes behind on. Are we comfortable with that? All right.
I'm not sure procedurally that you can continue a portion of this.
I'm not, no.
No,
They could refile. a portion.
Close that,
Okay.
we'll have to refile and it'll come in. just
Okay,
clean
sorry, I
up
thought you were
that
talking about continuing on that, and we don't even have RDAs as hearings, so technically, procedurally, we don't even have to close it.
Okay.
You would just,
Perfect.
Can I respond
Vote on
to a statement that
Yes.
was really heard?
Yep. Please.
I'm sorry, I don't have the paperwork that goes back several meetings, but I do remember distinctly a long, complicated conversation about invasives and the harm they do, and that it was important to get those things removed or treated or something before they went to flower and seed. It was discussed. If I could run home and go get the other papers, I could show you where it was discussed in the meeting.
Doc, can I just respond to that? Is that, just for clarification purposes for all the commissioners, because the attorney mentioned there was nothing in writing. And I understand from an applicant standpoint, particularly an applicant that had enforcement issues with the commission, that even though the commission tells you at a meeting, like, you know what, please go take care of that kudzu, please follow, the recommendations for bagging it and not letting it go to seed, they don't actually have a permit in hand. So I understand not taking action on that. If there was a concern about that, we could have tried to work on something, but just for that point,
Let me bring it back to you, because I think we do have something. I believe it's in the bylaw that management of invasives, that it's not something that's precluded from the bylaw.
No,
So
it's not, because otherwise, you have a situation where somebody will go clear, or cut down stuff in a wetland and like, oh, I was just doing the invasives. There's definitely, I understand the lack of action on that. I am concerned about it as well, because that's a species that's not established here yet. It is a species that is heavily monitored when it does pop up in Kingston, but we'll do our best to work with them in monitoring this going forward, once they have an actual permit in hand.
All right, that being considered, I don't think we're going to get anywhere.
Can I just make one point, please? May I just
in-
make one
in a-
point, Chair?
Can we please stop speaking over each other? Thank you.
I'm going to ask if they're comfortable, we're going to close the meeting and we'll kick the other stuff down the curb. You guys can come back and be heard. But for purposes of tonight, are we comfortable with closing the meeting and voting on the two separate parts, the invasives and then all the rest of it?
Point
Or
of
do we
order,
wanna
Chair, I
continue
would
this?
like to comment before you close the meeting.
I'm not closing the meeting. I'm asking the chair, the board, if they're comfortable, and I'll ask you to hold your comments.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable? Okay. All right, we're going to take a vote
You're allowed one last comment.
Okay. So if you read Dr. Rockwood's report, which goes above and beyond what you needed, you see that not only did he say there would be no harm to Smelt Pond or Smelt Brook, but also these activities would further serve to enhance and preserve the statutory requirements. This is evidence from an environmental scientist. It's not actually correct that you don't have evidence in front of you. You actually do. And they've gone above and beyond trying to meet these requirements, and they are eager to get started on the invasive materials, but we do require the procedure, but we do request a vote on and a writing on that. But we would further implore the commission to reconsider not addressing this landscape issue right now, or not voting on it at this time, and positively approving it. There's no basis for denying if it's based on the fact you don't have evidence before you. Cumulatively, you do have evidence, and as far as cumulative impact goes, we all know from having to deal with these situations in litigation that these areas are all considered individually. It is not the case that there's some sort of accumulated impact, that someone might come to you and say, well, my neighbor did it. That doesn't say that you have to do it. It says they have to show you that the conditions on their property are the same as their neighbors. I would also like to comment, and I will leave it at this, that I find the chair's treatment of Dr. Rockwood tonight to be rude. And it was unnecessary.
All right,
cut him
thank you.
off as though he was
We
a
won't do
witness,
that.
and I
We won't
want it on
disparage.
record that we object to
Excuse
the way
me,
Dr.
we
Rockwood
will come to
was treated.
order, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Matt, please, anything that you want, and then I'm going to look for a vote from our board.
Yeah, very briefly, because I already stated this, but as far as Dr. Rockwood's report, which again, I found to be very detailed and thoughtful, the baseline for the entire analysis on that was a turf condition. And that is not relevant to the commission's position on this based on the fact that that was a jurisdictional area that was not in a turf condition and has not been permitted as such. This filing does not meet the standards of WPA and KWPR. It doesn't meet the buffer zone standards, the riverfront area standards. They could easily come back with a filing that would meet the standards. It may or may not have the same configuration of turf. It might. This one does not. You mentioned cumulative impacts. Really didn't even have to. It's not particularly relevant in this situation because as it is, this filing does not meet standards. So that's it.
Very clear that cumulative impact is in our bylaw. So that's one of the things that we're supposed to address when we're adjudicating in front of someone. So I'm going to ask, do I hear a motion to close this meeting?
I'll make a motion to close this hearing.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that we will close the meeting. Do I hear a motion perhaps to issue a -3 DOA with special conditions as typical? And a a positive 5,
I'd put a 345.
positive 345 on the balance of the work.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dot. Is that correct? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes for a -3 DOA and a positive 345 on the balance of the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have to go to section A, correct?
Yes, and that is a 2-week continuance. Oh, wow.
All right, we will move to public hearing. Section A, Forge Pond Fish Passage on Old Lake Street, notice of intent. I will now continue a hearing for a notice of intent submitted by Gomez and Sullivan Engineers for the proposed construction of a permanent fishway at the Forge Pond Dam under Old Lake Street with associated dredging to restore the channel and improve fish passage. The applicant would like to continue to May 27th. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, that motion is by Megan. Do I hear a second?
Second.
By Marilyn, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that passes to continue to May 27th. All right, Section B, 20 Marion Drive, AKA 1 Royston Drive, map 75, lot 31-1, request for amendment to orders of conditions. That's an RAOOC. I will now continue a hearing for a request for amendment to orders of conditions submitted by Grady Consultant on behalf of Larry DeMar for the proposed installation of a sediment forebay and rain garden within a 200-foot riverfront area of Smelt Brook at 1 Royston Drive, formerly 20 Marion Drive. Matt, do you have any comments?
Before I get to that, did you want to call out a hard stop for the night?
No.
Just before,
Yeah.
maybe if you call it out in advance, you don't get accused of any malfeasance later.
Okay. Guys, I have to stop at 10. I can't go past 10 tonight. So
Sounds good.
is everybody on board with putting that as a hard stop, given we're probably half an hour behind? Yeah.
Yep.
Do we need to vote on that, Matt?
I don't think so.
All right, sorry. I asked Matt for his comments, and then we'll come straight to you if you want to.
Of course, thank you.
Are you okay with me just going through what I got here? And if you
Yes,
have
sir.
any disagreement, you...
No, thank you.
Perfect. So since the last time we talked about this, the applicant submitted updated materials. The updated materials dealt with a lot of the issues that I had in my last staff report, some of the things that still didn't match on the plan, as pointed out by the peer reviewer, have been fixed, and the mitigation area has been increased up to the 3,600 square feet of mitigation in order to satisfy 310 CMR 10.585F. So, in my opinion, the applicant has now detailed compliance with the RFA performance standards. I think it's debatable. We talked a lot about whether there could be other alternatives that weren't properly assessed, and that the peer review likely didn't really dig into whether some of those were properly answered. So that, I think, is still relevant. As Attorney Brodsky has pointed out, there's no specific requirement in this situation of KWPR or WPA that specifically calls for an alternatives analysis, but the commission understands that getting around to the point of making sure the project fits into the remaining portions of the riverfront standards, they certainly can request that. However, I am saying that I feel at this point the applicant has detailed compliance with the performance standards of riverfront area. Applicant's engineering consultant maintains that the proposed design is the best option for the site. I have a few conditions that I felt that I should talk about, given that there was some discussion about whether it was, the commission had all the information that it truly was the best one for the site. We discussed Horsley Witten Group's comment that the rain garden was likely the most practical alternative once all of their comments have been addressed. My only comment on that was the observation that not all feasible alternatives were considered, and most practical was not the task at hand there. Like I said, everything with the stormwater calcs and the site plan that had disagreement is fixed. There was a question on whether or which subsurface infiltration systems had already been installed. The applicant has now confirmed that systems 4, 5, and 6 have been fully installed. System 3 is partially installed, and systems 1 and 2 have not yet started. Horsley Witten Group also provided special conditions prior, and I did add those when I get to that. Horsley Witten Group provided an idea for a special condition regarding a sketch for the O&M plan, simplifying the process of properly maintaining the features over time. That was completed and sufficient. It is unstamped, but I don't think that really matters here, and I'm sure they can easily enough stamp it for our records. But the idea is that will go with the finished O&M plan for the project. It does detail stormwater infiltration systems 1 through 6 as stated before, and shows the 2 rain gardens, and so all of the information about how to maintain that will be tied to essentially a map, which is nice. we still see the plans kind of showing the extensive Smelt Brook as a pond, but I think it's always been that way all through the filings on this, so that's nothing. That's just something I think that makes Maryland's head explode, but they properly show the 200-foot riverfront area, so that's just a little side note there.
And you caught.
Commission could put a special condition in there if they wanted to, discussing that, but it's up to them.
But you also caught something about a mislabel, 100-foot wetland setback versus the riverfront area?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, on sheet 2 of the site plan, the inner 100-foot RFA is shown in purple as the 100-foot wetland setback. So I skipped that sentence, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that should be updated. Again, you could also throw a condition, there's just pointing that out, but easy enough to fix. As far as we've discussed sort of around the same time, the enforcement issues on the property, the applicant did sign a contract with Green Seal to provide that environmental monitoring. That has been going well. Property overall is in compliance. The last report made just minor suggestions about a peak of the property, but I think that has worked really well. As far as the special condition, number 1, about not having any additional work or alteration surfaces, the commission may view improving a problematic stormwater system as good cause. Others may not, given that when I say problematic stormwater system, a fix for a problematic stormwater system, some commissioners may, some commissioners may not, given that all the alternatives were not considered, or at least fully explained as to why they were not feasible. But it's up to the commission what good cause is. I would say in this situation, fixing a known stormwater issue would be good cause. And again, when I get to special conditions, I think we can add some conditions into this to make sure. So that, I think there were some questions from myself and the commission about, well, if you haven't properly assessed all of the alternatives, how do you know this is the best, and will this actually work when this is all done the way that the engineer's saying that it will? I think it's easy enough to have conditions in there that say if that's the case and it doesn't work at the end, you have to fix it. So I think it's easy enough at this point to look at that as good cause. Again, the applicant has now shown 1-to-1 mitigation abutting the passive naturalization area from the original OOCs. Sorry, I'm trying to skip past my old notes and only go to the new stuff. The data does show a reduction in peak flow after the system installation, which was confirmed by Horsley Witten Group. This reduction could be considered evidence of a beneficial project, but should be viewed along with all project impacts, including encroachment on the resource areas and project mitigation. So I had said before, this is an amendment request, so procedurally the commission should either approve or deny based on, number 1, alignment with the OOC special conditions. As I just said, that's debatable and up to commission interpretation. In my opinion, I think it's probably good enough. Number 2, alignment with KWPR and WPA performance standards, in my opinion, met more or less. And number 3, the standard for amendments that the work should not be more impactful. And that also, I believe, is met, given that it is fixing a known issue here. Commission may still deny the request if they feel the placement of the rain garden is not in alignment with the OOC special conditions, or that all feasible alternatives were not explored, with the understanding that our peer reviewers seem to accept all of the applicant's responses, however insufficient they may be. The applicant may appeal the decision if the commission denied this project. I'll go through special conditions. Changes to the original orders of condition, special conditions, because when we reissue this, we're reissuing the same document, and we have the opportunity to change some things that were just on the original stuff. Number 25, update the staff email address to mine. Number 41, change the square footage to be accurate. Number 43, add requirement for a PE certification that all stormwater systems are clean and fully operational. To explain that one, Special Condition 43 says that at the close of the project, before a COC is issued, the stormwater systems shall be clean and fully operational. I want to take that one step further and say that a PE has inspected and certified that to the commission, because for a lot of this project, the infiltration systems that were up in the paved areas were not protected in any way, and likely were filling in with a lot of sediment. So I think it's to the commission's benefit to have that certified. Special conditions that we would add on top of the existing. Number 1, applicant shall provide a planting plan for the expanded passive naturalization area for commission or agent review and approval prior to planting. Details the quantity, size, and species proposed for the area. It also includes signage alerting users that the area is not to be disturbed, and fencing or another adequate barrier to discourage trampling of the plantings. The approved signage and barrier shall remain in perpetuity. 2, applicant shall preserve the existing native trees as indicated on the plan of record, as well as other native species along Smelt Brook. Existing invasive autumn olive shrubs will be removed with any exposed soil stabilized. Number 3, invasive plant management in the passive naturalization area should be provided as necessary to ensure that the site provides a quality native riparian buffer. This is a perpetual condition. 4, this amendment has expanded the passive naturalization area to 23,068 square feet as shown on the plan of record dated April 2nd, 2026. This area is to remain in a natural condition in perpetuity. 5, before a certificate of compliance may be issued, the applicant shall provide a detailed O&M plan for the stormwater systems for commission or agent approval, including detailed instructions on vegetative maintenance of the rain gardens and the passive naturalization area, invasive removal only in that area. The plan must correlate to the survey plan dated April 3rd, 2026 that provides identification numbers to each infiltration system. This may be an update to the O&M plan in the Mass DEP stormwater report, or that may be superseded by a new approved plan. Number 6, to avoid fines and/or enforcement, the applicant must follow the approved O&M plan. Any stormwater-related issues found to be affecting wetland resource areas shall be cause for fines and/or enforcement. The Commission may issue enforcement orders to compel repair or replacement of clogged or failed stormwater systems outside of jurisdictional areas, provided that stormwater is bypassing the system and reaching jurisdictional areas. This is a perpetual condition. 7, should stormwater continue to pool on Royston Drive after project completion, exposing the adjacent wetland resource areas to sediment and potential contaminants, the Commission or its staff may issue enforcement orders compelling an engineered solution. This is a perpetual condition. 8, throughout construction, the applicant shall contract the services of a professional engineer. I'm not going to rehash all of that. It's what was already agreed upon. 9, failure to take corrective action in a timely manner as recommended by the engineer shall be sufficient cause for the Conservation Commission to revoke the orders and conditions allowing work on this property. That's what I got.
All right, before we open it up, sounds like we've made some good progress on this. If we have, I think just in the interest of time, if there's anything that you feel strongly that we can't issue in favor of the applicant, I think it would be good just to lay that out to Attorney Brodsky so that he can address it in his comments. And if we're all in agreement that we can approve this request, then I think we just save some time and let them know that that's what we're thinking. So I'm feeling that I think we've done the work on this one and we can approve it. Straw poll, is this something we're approving tonight or do we need to keep going?
I'm ready to approve it with the special conditions.
With the conditions,
So I'd like to
obviously.
hear the applicant's comments on whether or not those are acceptable.
Yep.
Agreed.
Agreed, generally speaking. Okay. Brodsky, I think you understand.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry, were you not polling everybody?
I thought you shook your head. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
thought I
No.
saw it, that's all I saw. But
No.
it clearly wasn't that.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
As much as I can appreciate the improvements that have been made, I'm still going back to opinions. We asked the peer reviewer to show us the best possible. I'm struggling with the use of the words likely and practicable. I'm also struggling with the lack of any examination of the alternatives as presented, whether there were models made, calculations done. It was an opinion, and that was it. So I'm still struggling with that.
Okay. Okay. Dot, did I read you right?
I agree with you.
All right. Sorry.
It's good.
Okay. Brodsky?
Oh, thank you. Good evening. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer representing Royston Properties LLC. Scott Fanara from Grady is here. I don't want to do anything to snatch victory away. We're happy with a special condition if you'd like us to update the plans. The special conditions proposed by the agent are acceptable to us. I'm happy to speak to Ms. Kazadoy's concerns regarding defined terms. There are actually some relevant defined terms in the regulations, but again, you have a long agenda and I don't want to delay things. So the project, I think, has been confirmed to meet your performance standards, which is the critical point. And we ask that you please close the public hearing and vote to approve the amended order. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any comment from the public? I'm sorry. Mr. Dubois?
Oh, thank you. I would just ask the attorney and the applicant to formally agree with the town of Kingston that, and the Conservation Commission, obviously, that they will work with us to improve the aquatic habitat conditions in Smelt Brook.
I can very
Please.
briefly
Yep.
say that I think if he did that, he could reduce jurisdictional area on his property significantly, so he may be interested in talking in the long term.
Chair Franklin, we're happy to have a conversation with Ms. Dubois. Obviously can't make any commitments, but happy to have that conversation.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments? All right. Do I hear a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion
Close the
I'm-
hearing, so.
Sorry, close the hearing.
to close the hearing.
The hearing, all right, I hear a motion, do I hear a second? Second by Brian. All those in favor of approving the request for amendment of orders of condition?
You have to vote on
Approve
closing.
closing the hearing.
Did I miss that?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Long day. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the meeting is closed. Do I hear a motion to approve the request for amendment to orders of condition as, with special conditions as discussed?
So moved.
All right, I hear a motion from Brian, do I have a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
Second from Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
And one abstention, okay, so that passes 4-0-1 with one abstention from Marion.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. All right, section C, 18 Smith's Lane, map 67, lot 82-1, notice of intent. I will now open a hearing for notice of intent submitted by South Shore Survey on behalf of Ronald Vernazzaro for the proposed construction of single-family house with associated utility within the 100-foot buffer zone to inland wetland resource areas and the 200-foot riverfront area. As this is the first hearing of the proposal, we'll now hear an introduction from the applicant. Do we have?
I wasn't sure who the, okay, there we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Courtney Beckwith with South Shore Survey. Here to talk about 18 Smith's Lane. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Please.
Okay. So this is 18 Smith's Lane in Kingston. This is the driveway view from Google Images, just for context to talk about the existing conditions. You can see that it's mostly grassed. There's been gravel laid down over the years and the grass has grown through it. So we estimate about 80% has that gravel base. There's an existing shed here and some pavement behind it, and I will go back to the plans. So you can see this shed here and the pavement here, and the little concrete stops and the sign. So this property has 100-foot and 200-foot riverfront area buffers to an intermittent stream that is a little bit off the plan, but this is the corner of it. And it also has bordering vegetated wetlands in the back of the property with the associated 50 and 100-foot buffer zones. We are proposing a 1,400 square foot single-family dwelling that is partially within the 200-foot riverfront buffer and the 100-foot BVW buffer, and a driveway that is completely outside of the buffer zones. We're also proposing to remove this existing shed and pavement area and restore it to lawn area. We have these tables showing the specific areas of the total riverfront area on the lot, what the existing impervious surface is in that area, and what our proposed is. So we are proposing an increase from 5% to 6% of the total riverfront area on the site, increasing a little bit, but it's still under that 10% Wetlands Protection Act 10% threshold. And so we are requesting that this notice of intent be approved so that we can build a single-family house. That was a very quick overview. Is there any questions?
Why don't we let Matt do his summary, and then we'll come back to your questions as they come up, okay? Thank you. Matt, could you walk us through the staff report and any other comments you might have?
Yes. Give me just 1 second, sorry. Just very briefly, I had down that this filing, trying to save as much time as possible tonight, that this filing wasn't quite there in terms of meeting all the standards of KWPR. I did not send them my staff report to review in advance of this meeting. I think it's very likely that a project could go through on this site. I just don't think that the commission has everything at this point. More than likely, there would need to be some sort of mitigation along the back of the property. Really, this entire site is cleared right up to the BBW edge from the best that I can tell. So I can go through everything specifically, or to save time, can just work with their consultant before the next meeting to make sure that they can come back with something that can definitely meet the commission standards.
Okay. For the interest of time, Ms. Beckwith, would you rather Matt review the staff report in this meeting, or would you like to work with him directly?
Working with him directly works well for me, and I like the mitigation idea, so I think that'll go over well.
All right, so you'd be open to a continuance. How much time
Yes.
would we need?
I would say probably May 27th is fine. That's the next meeting.
Okay, so Ms. Beckwith, would May 27th work? It's the next 2 weeks?
It would,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
I'll be in the office tomorrow. Even if you give me a call tomorrow, we can start to work through that.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So you don't.
Is there anything, unless anybody wants to be heard on this right now, I think we
I
should
just had a
continue.
couple comments, like conservation posts maybe, to be looking for. I'm sure Matt will go over that.
Okay.
Mitigation was one, collecting roof runoff, pulling a buzz.
Okay. Are we comfortable with Matt just taking first pass at it?
Yep,
All right.
absolutely.
All right, is there any other public that wants to be heard before we continue this? It looks like Pine.
Pine's hand up.
Just quickly, maybe Matt can find out how much fill has been put in over the years, whether that's an accurate representation of the wetland and riverfront area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone else from the public who wants to be heard, present, virtual? Okay. Perhaps I hear a motion to continue.
continue to May 27th?
May 27th, yep. All right, so we have the motion from Marilyn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Megan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. That motion passes to continue to May 27th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Section D, updates to the Kingston Wetland Protection Regulations. We'll now continue discussion on updates to the Kingston Wetland Protection Regulations. Matt, is there any comments for the commission?
Was more looking for comments from the commission. I see the look on Brian's face, and I can
Yes.
tell that he didn't do his homework.
I didn't do mine either, I'm not gonna lie.
How's that in
There's
reverse?
a lot of homework.
It's not my to-do list, it's right on.
Yeah. It's going to be really hard on these really packed meetings to get to this. I've continued. I still don't have a quote yet. The consulting firm that I would work with on this has been really busy, as we have been. Just very briefly, one of the things that I recently kind of thought about on this is KWPR does not provide the same exemptions as WPA. In a lot of ways, that's good. It allows the commission to review projects that would normally just pass right through without really any oversight at all. But there may be certain situations where the commission can add things in that could be exempt from KWPR, provided that certain steps are followed. So that's sort of one thing that I thought that our consultant could work on is, there's really no exemption for like the typical roadway type, work, like things that are being like fixed, not expanded or anything like that. That I think if you could have situations where proper erosion control is used or those sort of things, or coordination with the department to make sure that if there's anything there that needs to be protected is protected. I think there's a way to get some of those things exempted from KWPR and review as they are under WPA. But in general, I like the fact that it is more protective. That's the whole point of having a local bylaw. So that's the only homework that I bring to you. Otherwise, if the commission doesn't have anything else, I'd say we kick it 2 more weeks and see if anybody has any other suggestions. And if not, at some point we can just decide. At some point, you guys just tell me, I don't want to do any more homework, take what we have and send it to a consultant to come up with a draft. When we get the draft, we'll review that, and if we have anything to add to it, we'll add. And that can happen too.
I'll just in response to your comments, I think that when you talk about mosquito work, and what some of the other jurisdictions out there, some of the approaches that they take there, and I think that what you just said fits well with that. Obviously, it's got to be a line where can't be for everything, but we're certainly not writing in open-ended back doors, right?
I did have a brief conversation with mosquito control about that, and they sort of went like, well, we have to file for all that stuff too. And I went, I thought you had exemptions to do that type of work. I'll give you the one that I read about, because it wasn't Plymouth County. Okay.
It was somebody else, because
maybe it was a different state.
No, I thought it was. I'm not really good with the counties.
If it was a different state, then I could say maybe their regs are different.
Yeah.
But there was, it's not just our local bylaw that some of that stuff falls under. Some of that would fall under like the state's 401 water quality program, even Chapter 91. If it was flowing, you wouldn't be doing anything with it anyways.
Right.
The problem is the stagnant ditches that are left behind.
Right.
We'll definitely continue to work.
Okay.
I told him I want to continue to discuss it with him, but it wasn't as simple as I thought. He sort of was like, yeah, we're not exempted either. We have to file for all that stuff.
Yeah. I'll try to find what I had found.
Okay.
Good at finding stuff once I find it. And then the only other thing was just about part of what I'm hoping that the new consultant can do for us is kind of expose us to another option, so they can see what we have. Obviously, we can see what we want to play back and forth, but I'd like to see what their recommendations are.
Yeah.
Kind of coming out of like a canned spec, that's not 30 years old, just from that perspective. So that's why, you only get very limited response from me on that one. So is there anybody else who has feedback from Matt on this?
Nope.
All right. Are we comfortable with is there any comments from the public on this? Not hearing none. Are we comfortable with continuing this? Matt, when do you want to continue to?
To May 27th.
All right.
I'd say May 27th, and if you have nothing for me then just tell me to run with it, and we don't have to keep doing this.
So you want a motion to continue? Motion
To the 27th.
to continue to May 27th.
Correct.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Marilyn, second by Megan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And none, that passes. Continue to May 27th. Is that it on the?
That's it for hearings. Back to 18 Old Mill Road, RCOC.
I will now open a public meeting to discuss 2 requests for certificates of compliance, RCOCs, for 18 Old Mill Road submitted by Steinbeck and Taylor in regards to the orders of conditions issued to Craig Schul for construction of 2 additions and an attached garage on a single-family home within the 100-foot buffer zone, 2 bordering vegetated wetlands, and the 200 50-foot riverfront area. As this is the first meeting on this request, we will now hear the introduction from the applicant. Please identify yourself.
I have something.
Yep. All right, just name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Richard Savant. I'm a professional land surveyor with Steinbeck and Taylor.
Just one, did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
As you stated, we're here tonight to attempt to close a couple of open orders of conditions for this property at 18 Old Mill Road. There was 2 older orders issued, 653 and 772. These were both for additions to the home. The first addition was for an addition, the first orders was for a garage and an addition on the left side of the home. And the second was also for a smaller addition in the rear. The first was never closed, and the second one was issued for work on the back of the house. The original order required that dry wells be put in to collect the roof area for these additions and the remainder of the house. We found during an attempt to close these that the house has recently been sold. The new homeowners are in there, and we're just trying to clean this up. We've discovered that the dry wells weren't installed. 1 out of the 3 was. So they've since done that work. All the dry wells are in the ground. Roof leaders are connected to them. It also required that conservation markers be set, which are also in place. I've walked the site recently with Matt and Georgiana. We may have some comments on it, but essentially we've completed a majority of the items that were in the orders that needed to be done. Also, during the same process, we'll wait on the shed. Matt, next, I think the next hearing is about an RDA for this, but there is a shed on this site that was uncovered during the as-built process that wasn't permitted. And that's the next action item, is an RDA, hopefully to permit that shed. So, close the 2 open orders is what we're hoping to do tonight. So, that's essentially it.
Okay, thank you. Matt, could you brief the commission?
Yeah, again, we're going to discuss the shed next, so it's kind of hard not to kind of discuss both of them together.
Well, I think just for if we're gonna do the shed next, let's keep this one clean.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
this
like,
one's clean.
Right.
It's no.
Okay.
No. 3 dry wells have been installed. They're depicted on the as-built plan. Both additions, the back deck, the driveway, appear to have been constructed according to plans that were submitted with the NOI. Turf in the front yard is established. Area appears stable. We did a site visit on May 4th with Rick. On site, Rick confirmed that all 3 dry wells have been installed, stated that all roof drainage systems are connected to the dry wells except for 1 downspout in the corner of the garage. There's an open connection to the dry well in the other corner of the garage, where the applicant may be intending to tie the downspout into the dry well. Before I continue, is there an update on that?
Not officially, but we're still under that premise.
Okay, so that's something that's outstanding on that all the dry wells are installed, but currently one of the downspouts is not, and it's on the wetland side, is not connected, so probably right now it flows over land. And we believe the intention is to either connect that one or to just change the angle of the gutters so that it goes into the dry well on the other side. But we would need an update on that. We confirmed that all 6 conservation posts are in place and visible. Most of the property has little evidence of encroachment past those posts. The understory did appear pretty open, which sort of suggested previous cutting. These current owners have only been there for about, I think, 1.5 years. So it didn't seem like there had been any recent cutting. The prior owner might have been cleaning the woods and cutting the understory. So the current owner should keep in mind no alterations are allowed in there. And this is something, I don't know if it's something the commission would really want to deal with in a situation like this, but should keep in mind going forward. A couple of areas on the property where Japanese Pachysandra, the ground cover, it's used all the time horticulturally, was planted right near those posts and has just spread into the vegetated buffer zone pretty densely, doesn't let anything else grow through it. So not ideal for conservation area. Hopefully that is minimal I don't know if you want to make a new property owner go in and rip all that stuff out, but it's something that should be noted anyways. We also observed a large area of fill behind the unpermitted shed, consisting of soil, mulch, grass clippings, ash, leaves, and other general yard waste. We don't really know the origin of the fill or the timing of when it was done. It may have been from a combination of clearing and grading associated with shed construction, or just from long-term yard waste deposition. That pile is past the conservation posts by quite a bit, and it is within the 100-foot inner riparian area. And it's large enough it might cross into that 50-foot BBW buffer as well. I cite all of the standards on riverfront area and buffer zone and dumping of yard waste and all that, but obviously for the commission's point that it's not allowed and there's conservation posts there anyways. So commission should not issue a COC on this until the remaining downspout is connected and the fill beyond the conservation posts is addressed. The shed part has at least been addressed by the filing of the RDA, which we'll deal with next, but I think at this point you'd continue this. I said as part of addressing the fill issue, the commission should consider requiring the owner to add 2 more conservation posts, one at each of the 2 corners of the shed nearest the resource area, and a no dumping sign in multiple languages in case it's, we have a lot of issues with, it wasn't me, it was the landscaper. Commission can decide what, if any, other action should be taken to address the fill. They could require mitigation plantings to stabilize the filled area, though the composition of the fill and shady conditions may make it challenging to grow anything. They could require removal of the fill, though it will be challenging to access the area with the heavy machinery required for the extent of removal without further damage to the resource area, and tough to get in there with the shed in the way.
All right, I'm open to just get discussion up for the board. Any comments from the commission? All right, we'll open it up to the public.
Chair, may I?
Yes, please, Brian.
Just briefly, I think it's important to convey to the new owner that this is a tributary to the main stem of the Jones River and is an incredibly important aquatic habitat area. I tripped over this area quite a while ago. There's a spring that is near the railroad track upstream to the I'll call it the northwest, that emerges, that is groundwater fed from Silver Lake, and it starts a stream that runs through that wetland and joins the Jones River below the railroad track. I think that it's important for the property owner to know that it's incredibly valuable habitat. It's not just another wetland that people get, sick of hearing about. And that it's important to find out whether that pile behind the shed is dangerous to those aquatic systems or not. That's all I will say. And thank you very much for the effort.
Thank you. All right.
Well, we've discussed this yardway. It appears to be, historical grass clippings, mulch, things. I don't think there's any fill as far as, soil under there. We didn't excavate the entire thing. It seems pretty stable there, and it is a difficult area to reach. There wasn't any signs of erosion there. I'm not suggesting that we don't do anything. I'm just, it's something, there's at least a foot of, composted material in there. It does appear to be some recent leaves, within the last year there. It seems just like accumulation from yard grass clippings and so forth. So we did talk about possibly removing it. It is a difficult area to get any type of equipment in there. It's not that much material that you need a large machine or something, but it is difficult to access it. It would probably have to be handwork.
There's a slope.
It's very steep slope
to it. It was like something, you dump it off the edge, and then it just keeps filling up and up, and so it's ideally all of it would be removed. I don't know if it's possible to remove that without doing more damage to the buffer zone. my suggestion might be to give them some time to figure it out. Come back to the commission in a month, maybe, and have a plan for how they're gonna deal with that, and then have the commission take whatever, if you don't need to issue any documents on this, and they can just take care of it in a way that's satisfactory to the commission verbally, and then come back and get their COC, then great. I wouldn't want them to go in and do anything without having the commission approve it. So I would say if you kick it by, let's say, whether he might be able to say whether 2 weeks or a month, but just kick this down the road to let them come up with a solution that could be something the commission could support, then they come to the next meeting and say, here's our plan. And you say yes or no. And obviously they get that to our office first so we can review it for you. But at that point, you might be able to say, okay, go do that, come back in a month, and we'll likely issue the COC. You can do something like that. You don't have to think about every aspect of it tonight. You can put it on them.
No, that's a viable
to
alternative.
figure that out.
Yeah.
Is that something the applicant's open to?
I'm not sure if these folks are involved at all. I haven't had the pleasure to meet them, but I would certainly work with them, and I think so. We have two parties involved, the new homeowner there, and the old homeowner is still in the area, but out of the property. But I agree with Matt. I mean, I think the best way would kind of do a balance of the two. Maybe stabilize it, maybe put some sort of native seed or something there to keep the slope, remove some of it. But we'll certainly look at alternatives with that versus just digging it out on that slope. I think you're gonna have some erosion problems and create more problems than exist there now. But they should encapsulate it and stabilize it, remove some of it and prevent any future dumping, or with signage and additional posts and markers to make sure that it doesn't continue at all, and just let Mother Nature take its course in there.
I have a question.
Oh, of course.
You said there was ash in it?
Yeah, it looks
Appeared
like
to
probably like, my guess is wood stove or something. It was buried in, when you,
Would you consider it a lot? The reason I'm asking.
I didn't see a lot. What it looked like to me, and I'm not positive, was, when you have like a can or bucket, whatever you use to scrape out your wood stove, probably dumped it back there and then dumped other stuff on top of it to the point now it's more like clay.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is that wood ash is usually alkaline, and rain going through it will take the alkali into the wetlands, which is not good.
And pretty much everything that's in there, a lot of it anyways, is stuff that you wouldn't want, why we don't allow it. It's roughly 50 feet from, it's at least 50 feet, I should say, roughly from the BVW, and it's probably 90 feet from the riverbank. So it's not ideal, but it's not right on top of it. I'm sure there is some dissipation of what's coming down through there. So I mean, if the stuff in there had to stay in place, you'd at least want it to be stabilized better, and you'd want it to look like it wasn't a dumping pile. Because signs aren't enough.
Right.
When you have a pile of stuff that's clearly yard waste dumped there, then any landscaper you hire is going to dump there. The homeowner may just continue dumping there. Figuring how often are we even going to be around and check on stuff like that. So you want at least something to, like I said, it wouldn't be easy to just throw some seed on it and have it be a restoration mix or something like that, because it's pretty established canopy over it. So, I mean, it could be a situation of planting some native shade-loving stuff as actual plants instead of seed, and a little mulching type layer over it or something along those lines. I don't know.
Soil mat, netting or something, yeah.
But I would say probably, I don't know that they're going to come up with that in a week, and we would need it in a week to have it for the 27th. So more than likely you want to push this off for a month. That gives them 3 weeks to come to me with some sort of a plan like that, or to kick ideas off of our office in the meantime before coming up with something that we can review for you.
Matt, let me just ask, just because I can't open up the plan. I see that it's very steep. How close is the resource area to the bottom of the slope, or is it continuous to that point? I mean, if it runs, I think you
It's a pretty
understand what I'm
steep
saying.
slope, pretty straight, other than where the stuff is dumped. It kind of has flattened out a little more there.
The dumping is outside the 50-foot buffer to the BVW.
Yeah.
But it is about, what he estimated, 70, or 80 feet to the river.
Yeah, I guess I just threw like 90.
Yeah, I think we were-
But it might be,
we were
might be. When I was there in
eyeballing it.
person without looking at the plan, I said, what's that, 75, 80 feet? It's
That's right.
somewhere around 80,
How
90
far
feet.
is the stream from the bottom of the slope? Because
Probably
if the
about
water's
80.
just running down, how close, when it hits that kind
About
of,
90 feet, I'd say it's about
to the bottom of the slope?
to the,
Probably about 80 to 90 feet,
Yeah.
is my guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not 10 feet?
It's not 10, no, like I said, there is intact natural vegetated buffer between the bottom of that slope and the wetland and the river, and you have roughly 50 feet to the wetland and roughly 80 to 90 feet from the bottom of the slope to the river.
Chair,
Other
would
questions?
you like to see, just,
No, the
you're
summary is
fine.
good enough. I looked at the plan when I could see it, I just can't pull it out.
So what's the date if we push it out?
1 month, the meeting, the date on the first?
It's the 10th.
June 10th.
June 10th.
Any other comments?
June 10th?
All right.
So I will move to continue this to June 10th, to give you the time you need.
Okay, perfect. Motion by Marilyn, do I have second? Second by Brian, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none.
Thank you.
June 10th.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
We've
So-
talked about
Suppose you can just stay
I
there.
have the next,
Yeah.
next item.
All right, I have to leave. I will now open a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for 18 Old Mill Road submitted by Steinbeck and Taylor on behalf of Craig Schul for construction of a shed within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and 200-foot riverfront area. As it's the first meeting on the request, we will now hear an introduction to the applicant.
Good evening. Again, my name is Richard Savant with Stenbeck and Taylor. This is all related, very related to the conversation we just had.
Do you want to skip this and just all?
Yep,
Okay.
unpermitted shed.
And just so Pine knows, I did have in my staff report that it is within the 200-foot riverfront area to a perennial stream tributary to the Jones River. I should have pointed that out verbally in the last one. It is important. You don't care how big the shed is. It's a relatively standard-sized shed. It's on a bed of 3/4-inch stone with patio block supports. Sits right outside the line of conservation posts. So the shed itself does not encroach on the area with conservation posts. We already talked about the fill landscape debris, which is right behind the shed. We don't have to discuss that again. Barring the encroachment issue involving the dumping of landscape materials, the shed itself appears to meet the standards of WPA and KWPR, being beyond the 50-foot BVW buffer as well as the inner 100-foot riparian buffer, and being more or less located in the previously permitted landscaped area. The only issue there is whether the fill encroaching on the inner 100-foot riparian area was initially placed to provide support for the shed. If none of that's being removed, then that may not be concerning to this particular thing anyways. My thought is the commission should not approve any retrospective permitting of this shed until the encroachment issue has been dealt with. Continuance or denial will be recommended. For continuing the other thing, might as well just continue this. Just to sort of discuss that, I know we already have a COC request on this, but why issue any of it? You kind of have two angles to make sure that something is done here so that everything gets back into compliance. So I wrote down the same thing that I wrote before about the conservation posts and the signs. And so the applicant may work to remove the unpermitted fill through a permit issued by the commission if it can show that the material can be removed without causing further detrimental impacts to resource areas or their interests. Alternatively, they may stabilize the site to the commission's satisfaction, add signage and posts preventing any further encroachment, and mitigate the encroachment somehow. That's all I have.
All right, we'll open up comments to the commission. Any questions? All right, we'll open to the public if there's any questions or comments from the public. What say you?
I'm clear. No, I think we need to rectify that issue before we get everything cleared up.
So continuance to this?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't even know, I mean,
I was thinking,
so if we're talking about June 10th is going to be the RCOC meeting where they're going to have brought something to the commission as far as a plan to take care of the dumping. you're still not gonna wanna issue the permit for the shed until you've confirmed that it's been dealt with.
They're
So,
tied together.
I don't know that you're gonna wanna put this to June 10th, you may put it a month beyond that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Comfortable with July, first meeting in July?
Do we need a month or 2 weeks, you think? after
Yeah, what
that?
about another 2 weeks?
Instead of
I
a
would
month?
say
The idea is
probably-
that they have time to get the work
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
To
not,
that's
have the
right.
mitigation to
Yeah.
the dumping done, we can see evidence that that's been completed,
Yeah.
and then we can issue
Yeah.
the permit in retro for the shed.
I know the commission doesn't like to see things on the agenda over and over and over and
Right.
over and over again. It gets a little tedious, so I tend to, in situations like this where I expect that the work is gonna take a little bit of time.
So it gives them a month to do the plan and a month to do the work.
Yeah.
This is, I'm sure, a legal issue. There's some sort of escrow thing or something along those lines.
Yeah,
Don't
If
worry.
there's some sort of harsh deadline on that,
if you want the 10th, it doesn't, you can always tell us the day before that we're continuing the morning of the whatever, that you're not ready for this.
I think that would be fair, and we'll just keep a close eye on it.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe there's a chance that we can get it done before July. I'm sure the owners would like to get it cleared up by then, and we'll do our best to do that. I'll work with Matt. And then if we have to continue it, we'll continue it. I know we don't like to keep going, but I think that's fair.
It's fair.
Keep it on with the,
So
On the
do them
10th.
together?
10th, yeah.
Okay.
6/10.
So I'll make a motion to continue this to June 10th.
All right, we have a motion from
Continue
Marilyn.
to June 10th or July?
June 10th, just because
Right,
they're trying to
yeah.
get escrow closed
Yep.
out. So if they can get it done quicker, we could hear it quicker.
I agree.
All right.
I'll second that.
Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll continue with that. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Good night.
I will now open a
That's
public
all it
meeting to
takes.
discuss a request for determination of applicability for Drew and Seaver Avenues submitted by Matt Pinella on behalf of the town of Kingston for digging test pits in the roadway to assess stormwater recharge suitability within the 100-foot buffer zone to coastal wetland resource areas. Now hear a briefing from the conservation agent.
It was also the applicant.
Technically.
Well, in that
This
case.
shouldn't be legal.
No, there's definitely something wrong with
I think you need to go over there.
I'm not gonna.
And then you need to come back. Wave your hat. Wave your hat when you go there.
Test pits are not subject to regulation under the Wetlands Protection Act, provided the project complies with standards by performing work and using post-construction measures so as to reduce the potential for adverse impacts. As described below, the project meets those provisions. However, as noted in Article 4 of Kingston Wetlands Protection Bylaw, unless otherwise stated in the bylaw, the exceptions provided in the Wetland Protection Act and regulations shall not apply under this bylaw. So the bylaw makes no reference to test pits nor any exception that'd be relevant to the project, so we were sort of planning on filing it no matter what, but you really don't have any exemptions into that. Regarding KWPR, the project is jurisdictional. This is, if you're unfamiliar, Drew and Seaver Ave are on Rocky Nook, so they start out of jurisdiction up at a higher level, and both streets slope down pretty aggressively down to Coastal Bank and Coastal Beach and land under the ocean of Kingston Bay. The work is jurisdictional but temporary in nature and will result in no detrimental impacts to wetland resource areas. Further, the entire work area is developed or altered. For the most part, these test pits are going to be in paved areas or on the road shoulders. There's one that's going to be in a lawn. But for the most part, you're not talking about any, or entirely, you're not talking about any natural area. Also, there are no disturbance zones relevant to this project, and the project appears to meet all the standards of KWPR. Proposed work will be performed by the Kingston Highway Department in conjunction with the project design engineer, Justin Lamoureux of Strong Tree Engineering. I will be present during much of the work in order to ensure compliance with KWPR. Erosion control are not likely to be needed for this project, but silt sock will be available. Potentially straw water will be available on site just in case. The smallest possible holes are being cut so that the town's Vector truck can be used for the excavation. So we're talking about a 2-foot square road cut for each one of these. Once the holes are complete and examined, they will be backfilled and either hot or cold patch asphalt will be applied and the site swept so that no sediment will be available for stormwater transport. Where test pits may occur within turf areas, turf will be cut and removed whole so that it can be replaced when the pits are done. Any roadside areas that are neither turf or pavement would be dressed exactly as they were found when we got there that day. So proposed work is temporary in nature, expected to be started and finished in the same day. Obviously not done in the rain, which we were planning on doing the work tomorrow, so that's not going to happen. We're pushing on to next week, hopefully. Accepting that the pavement cuts may be performed the day before, leaving all the asphalt in place, but just having the cuts done for speed purposes. This work is part of the planning phase of a stormwater management project aimed at installing effective stormwater control measures to protect Kingston Bay from contaminants. The project is funded by an Office of Coastal Zone Management grant from their Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Program. The grant period ends June 30th, so prompt completion of this work is necessary for grant performance. The commission is likely to see an NOI filing for the stormwater control measures by the end of June. Barring any specific concerns or questions, commission may wish to issue a -3 DOA with any special conditions as they see fit.
Okay, thank you. We'll open up comments first to the commission.
So for special conditions, given your notes, would you think it appropriate to include having a silt sock available and straw wattles on site and sweeping up of any sediment?
I would say, I typically think straw wattle is pretty useless for anything, but
But you had mentioned it, so.
in this case, I think silt sock would be overkill and
Okay.
be mostly in people's way. I really don't think there's gonna be any need for anything at all, because the work is gonna be done quickly
All right, I
and
was just
set
working
back
off
the way it was.
your comments.
But I think a condition for appropriate erosion control measures to be stockpiled on site and for the site to be swept up. Basically, everything kind of that I wrote out in this, I think could be applied as special conditions.
Did you say these holes would be closed the same day? Isn't that not typical for a test pit like that?
I don't think so. In this case, the only real reason for doing this is to assess, is there a giant stretch of ledge down there? Because we're trying to design subsurface stormwater infiltration measures, so if you don't do the test pits, then you can design whatever you
So
want.
they're looking at the soil.
And then you get ledge, so it's not looking
Okay,
at
so much as
groundwater as
drainage.
much as
Yeah.
looking for big swaths of ledge that might be present based on what the sewer department had on some of their elevations
There
when they
may
ran the
also be a
sewer
lot
line.
of clay.
Yeah, yeah, it could be.
What's the test pits, how deep are you going? I know they're 2 by 2, or what are you guys looking to do?
I think it's pretty relatively deep.
Okay.
I don't have a specific answer for you on that, but it was pretty deep. I was surprised to hear that they wanted to use the Vector for that. I didn't think of really doing that. And typically they'd be bigger. I think they were looking at whether it was like a 4 by 6 or something, because I think it's easier for an evaluator to get down in the hole to look at this stuff, but he said he could work with a 2 by 2 as long as you can get down, if you can see down there, you have tools or whatever you can use to kind of stick down there and assess it. So I liked hearing that they were smaller. That just makes it easier to protect the resource areas.
Yeah. And again, this is inside roadways, grassways, and if there's anything else, it's just
Yeah.
somewhere in between the two, and not inside a resource area.
Yeah, there's really nothing natural at all in the areas that these are proposed. The area is pretty well developed. And again, it is part of a beneficial project. It's the planning phase of a beneficial project. This grant phase is going to get this project designed and get the permits filed. And the only permit that's going to be needed is from the commission. We're going to have an NOI file submitted, and that's going to be all we need to get that work done. So we'll need to get a grant to do the actual work, but that's just kind of the way these work. You do one round for planning and then submit it again the next year for implementation.
This is
Any
all
other
on public
questions?
space?
What's
It's
that?
all on public space, there's no private property?
Yeah, in fact, a good portion of people's yards or properties, that what they've been, kind of using and maintaining involves the roadway. The roadway is wider than it appears. So we do have more space to work with than it looks like when you're driving down the street. Obviously, we want to be, cognizant of that and not be, horrifying people by what we do there, but there will be, no matter what with this project, there will be changes more on the bottom of the road. I think anything we're trying to get stuff to slow down in the uphill areas with subsurface infiltration, and then down the bottom is where you have some of your open bioretention type features or rain garden stuff. So there may be more changes down the bottom right above the coastal bank than further up, but we sent a mailer around. There are some properties that either had double lots or just had certain areas that looked like they'd be good for getting some infiltration done, and we sent a mail around asking if anybody was interested in talking about easements or anything like that, and nobody. So I got to keep it all within the roadway.
Did, Matt, did we notify the people adjacent to these test pits so that?
Only when I was there with, I was there a few days ago with the highway department, sewer department, water department. So they were painting out some of their lines and just kind of planning for this, and ran into a few people. It was a nice day, people are outside, and I sort of told them when we were roughly thinking of doing this and told them to tell their neighbors. But I didn't send a mailer around on this. No. I think people will still be able to get out of their driveways and all that stuff, so it shouldn't be anything too bad. But when we do the NOI, they'll get abutter notifications. So.
Okay, perfect. Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, are we ready to make a motion?
So I'll make the motion. So
Okay.
moved.
Motion to issue a -3 DOA
Second.
With the conditions.
with the conditions as discussed. Okay. That's your motion?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion from Brian, second
Second.
by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none?
You're good.
We're good, all right. A motion carries to issue a -3 DOA for this. 5 years. I will now open a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for 1 North Street submitted by Ann Antonellis for installation of a fence with gate within the 100-foot buffer zone to various coastal wetland resource areas. As this is the first meeting on this proposal, we'll now hear an introduction from the applicant.
I'm not sure the applicant's here tonight. I did get an email from the applicant a couple of hours ago that I didn't open, but it was related to the enforcement. There's also an ongoing enforcement issue on the property.
Okay.
But I can give a pretty good breakdown of this if you like, or...
Well, let's just continue it until they're here.
Okay, that's fine too.
Everybody good with continuing it and hearing it?
Since
all at
they're not
once?
here.
Yeah, they're not
Sure.
here. All right, may I have a
To
motion?
the 27th, what's your pleasure?
Yeah. Let's
So
do the
I move that we continue it to May 27th.
Okay, do I hear a second? Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We'll continue to the 27th. I will now open a discussion on Conservation Commission's signature for the purchase and sales agreement for 83 Wapping Road. Matt, would you bring us up to speed?
Yes, commission previously voted in support of the chair signing an offer sheet or, original agreement on this, and that was done. We had a purchase and sales agreement drafted, and council reviewed and modified and went back and forth a bunch of times, and is now ready for the chair's signature again, or this one is ready for the chair's signature. So if you have any specific questions about the process on the property, I can answer those for you. It's the same property we already discussed, and was just looking for a vote in support of the chair signing the P&S tonight so that I can return it to their team to fully execute it. And if this happens, there are contingencies in there for us to be able to find all of the funding that we need, I am working on that. We have a significant portion of it covered by CPC funds, and there's a portion that I need to cover through private donation because the agreed upon price is higher than what CPC would fund. It is higher than our appraised value was at for some pretty valid reasons. So again, I'm working on that part of it. Town meeting is in early June. The CPC articles will be voted then. That money would be made available July 1st. I believe the closing we have in the PNS as mid-July.
Questions, open comment? Comment from the public? All right. So Matt's looking for a motion?
Do you motion to purchase or just to sign?
No, it was
Sign.
approved.
Just to sign.
Just to,
I think the motion is just to have the chair sign purchase and sales, but I mean, you could modify the motion if you want to say to sign the purchase and sales and to take any other steps necessary towards the purchase of the property, something along those lines, or to take whatever.
I think a motion to
Valid steps.
authorize the chair to sign the purchase agreement is sufficient.
yeah.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Brian, second from Megan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes 5-0. Enforcement, 51 Main Street continued from an earlier date. Matt, could you bring us up to speed?
Yes. Can we go out of order? 53R first?
All right. We will now go to 53R Main Street, continued from an earlier date. Matt, please bring us up to speed.
So last time we did 53R, they had Attorney Brodsky present, and he contended that the statute of repose in this case had expired, and therefore the commission couldn't take enforcement action on this. And I said, let me go confirm with town council. Since then, town council did agree with Attorney Brodsky that the statute of repose would apply in this case and has expired. So the commission would not have the ability to take enforcement action on the unpermitted paving until the current owner sold the property. So I left it on the agenda just to explain that for, appearances sake. I did mention that if the commission wanted separately to take enforcement action for the cutting of channels through that burn to drain the water towards the wetlands, they could do that. But that I didn't think that was something entirely necessary, at least at this time. The property owner has filed since then an RDA that I have not reviewed yet, but is intended to solve some of these issues there. There's some sort of a drainage component to it. So the property owner called me today just to ask, hey, why am I still on the agenda? I'm not in town. Can't be there tonight. I said, I don't think you need to be there. I left it on the agenda strictly to tell the commission we can't really take enforcement action on this issue, but they are working on it anyways, which is good. So I figured it was easier just to get that one out of the way and then go to 51. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Any questions for Matt? No. Questions? All right. So Matt, you don't need anything on that. It drops off.
Nope, just drops off.
Okay. All right. So
Going
take
forward, if the commission feels they want to take enforcement action on anything like the cutting of water or something like that, we can do that. I don't think that's anything you need to think about right now.
All right, back to 51 Main Street then.
Yeah. Again, we already did a full thing on this, so I'm going to skip to just new information. When we talked about this last, it was winter and everything was covered in a bunch of snow. So we said, for starters, we need to go do a site visit. So we did a site visit March 23rd. The property owner. We observed the berms or soil hills between 51 and 53R. The owner reported they were formed when the lot was paved next door, which I said seemed entirely possible based on what I observed on site. It seemed like that was probably from topsoil and turf being scraped off in advance of paving. Bringing that up because the neighborhood contended that 51 was building that berm by dumping things there, and I saw no evidence of that. We discussed modifications that he made to the property. He reported that he had cleared some shrubs and trash just behind the house to add a fenced-in turf area. Behind this fenced-in turf area is what appears to be a legally paved driveway. Property owner reported he had added some gravel past this paved area. That was what we had discussed, where you could see that area that goes down and around from a few years back. Past the gravel, he also removed some trees and shrubs and added turf. That area was very wet and squishy with some puddles during the site visit. Again, this was, I would say late winter, really late winter, where we had a lot of snow melt. It could entirely just be snow melt in that area. He said he only added seed to this area with no fill, so that couldn't be really confirmed from site conditions. He reported also that past that area, he had been hand cutting like a trail back through the property towards the tracks. On site, it was challenging to determine which of these activities were jurisdictional, especially with the vegetation having been removed in a lot of these areas. On site, I recommended that they have a delineation done to confirm the wetland boundaries, especially in that wet cleared turf area where I suspected that might have been a wetland. So just a couple of days ago, we gave them a list of local wetland scientists, and since then they have contacted ECR. They actually went sort of above and beyond and contacted a surveyor as well, and I told them, at this point, you don't need that. Right now, I think all we need is a wetland delineation. Let us see where the wetlands are, relate that to what is done. Strictly for cost savings purposes, I would say at this point, you don't need a plan. My hope is that we don't need to issue an enforcement order either. I did talk with Brad Holmes of ECR specifically about what is needed there. My thought on this was to continue it for a month, and hopefully within a month they'll have something, whether it's the delineation is done or a set date for when it's supposed to be done. If nothing gets done, the commission could always issue an enforcement order on it. But I would say put it off for a month, let them assuming that Brad can get to it quicker and go out and flag stuff, they can call me, I can come review the site, correlate that to what we already have for aerials, and then discuss that on June 10th.
Okay, thank you, Matt. We'll open up the discussion to the board. Any questions for Matt? Open up discussion to the public. All right, so it sounds like Matt's looking for a continuance. Do we have a motion?
So I'll move that we continue it to June 10th.
Okay, do we hear a second? Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, with motion carries 5-0. Continue to June 10th.
Thanks for hanging in tonight.
2 weeks, he said.
2 weeks, perfect. Give me a shout. Have a good night.
Oh my God, I had to wait all that time.
Sorry, I don't know. It's always the people who are sitting there being nice the whole time. Get the longest
Thank you, good
wait.
night.
Sorry.
Can we take 2 minutes?
Yeah.
2 minutes?
Sure.
Thanks.
We will take a 2-minute recess.
Has he got that, or?
We're good, thank you.
We just need our mics back on.
All right, mic's on, everyone?
Mics on, mics on.
All right, we are going to move on to 6 Prospect Street, continued from an earlier date. Matt, will you bring us up to speed on this?
Yes. Following the April 22nd meeting, at the commission's request, I issued enforcement orders under WPA and KWPR on April 23rd, mandating the following. Cease and desist, which is complete. Install site perimeter fence landward of the excavated area, encircled by 6+ inch silt sock by May 12th. That was done. Brian reached out to me and said, strictly for cost-saving purposes, can I use pallets to build the fence? And I said, I don't see a problem with that as long as it, serves its purpose. So I did get evidence that that was done. The silt sock was the right kind, which is good to see. Sometimes we have difficulties with that. I did get notification that the fence may have fallen over today, so I know Brian said tonight, when it gets to be his turn, he can maybe just speak to whether that's still up and stable or if it needs some work. But that was done by May 12th. Coordinating a site visit with DEP and DCR's Office of Dam Safety, that is also complete. That was done on May 5th. And the last point was engage the services of a professional engineer towards assessing the culvert and preparing a solution to the hazards posed by the condition of the culvert post-excavation. Provide signed agreement by May 12th. We don't have that. Brian did reach out and say that he had called, he listed off a handful of engineering firms. I provided a short list of the typical suspects that we see around here, and he said he called some of those today. Again, when it's his turn to speak, he may have an update on that. But as far as right now, that part's not in compliance. The site visit was before May 5th. Brian was there. I was there. Commissioners Cozadoy and Vendetti were there, and representatives from DEP Wetlands, DEP Waste Site Cleanup, and DCR Office of Dam Safety, and their dam inspection consulting firm, GEI. Much of the site was viewed. Each agency discussed relevant standards, issues, and enforcement actions. There was candid conversation about the ownership and occupancy history of the property and the lack of options for the current occupant to sell or develop the property. DEP's waste site cleanup staff said that while contamination is clearly an issue on this property, there is no evidence of any contaminants reaching wetland resource areas as part of the unpermitted work from April 13th or since. So for clarification, the commission really wanted to know from your waste site cleanup, is this a big problem? They did not say there is nothing there, but they said there's no evidence. They didn't see any sheen or smells or anything. There's nothing in any of the files that they already had that indicated that there would likely be contamination from a release from that work. Dam Safety's consulting engineers, we're going to share their dam assessment report when it's ready. I actually need to reach out and ask them if it's done. They expected it was going to take a couple of weeks. I was hoping to have it before this meeting, but they did say that they suspected they were going to be downgrading the dam's condition to poor, which requires dam inspection reports submitted to ODS every 6 months. They did not suspect imminent collapse, so it's not anything, again, hugely imminent there with the condition of the dam, which is good. DEP's wetland staff said to keep them informed through the enforcement process. Regarding, let's see, let me skip past parts that I already said. The excavation hole has filled with water. When we first were on site in April, Brian had said that the culvert downstream of the excavation was clogged, and it does appear to be clogged. The water was not flowing over land, but it was filling up to sort of just below the pavement. So there does appear to be a clog there. It's unclear what the source of the clog is. So that's what I have for now. If you have any questions, I can answer questions. We can hear Brian. Yeah.
So restricted flow, not clogged, because we got a river running through.
Correct. Yeah, it's a perennial stream running out of a dam that holds back and creates Foundry Pond. It is not complete impediment or complete plug or clog, because I think otherwise you would have it coming up and sheet flow over land,
Right.
which is good. I was concerned about that, before when he had said it was clogged, but so it is holding back a significant amount of water, but it is not, it is staying within the excavated area, so it is trickling through there. We didn't, when we were on site that day, didn't see any sign of sediment flow on the downstream section. The water that was in the excavated hole looked pretty clear. You could see down to the bottom of it.
How deep would that be in the excavation? You know?
Roughly 5 or 6 feet off the top of my head. And,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, I mean, Matt, what was the outcome of all the discussions thus far? Was there any of the stakeholders that chimed in that they have a solution, or that there's guidance on what the solution is, or what was the benefit of those meetings?
Not for the wetlands issue. DP Wetlands sort of just said, just keep us apprised throughout the enforcement process, and they'll help in any way they can. But, I mean, nobody's going to come up with a solution for this other than a hired engineer. Part of having the site visit was having the waste site cleanup folks weigh in on whether contamination was going to be a big factor in whatever the solution would be for the digging of the collapsed culvert. That on top of knowing now the dam has been inspected. That dam hadn't been inspected, I think, since the 90s. And it was a known, kind of dam that wasn't in great condition. So that was good. From a regulatory standpoint, it was interesting having the different, all of the different agencies there at the same time, all having their own sort of enforcement or regulatory actions on the property was, I think, kind of important to have all that there at the same time to see the scale of that. But yeah, strictly from a wetlands protection standpoint, it's obviously the property is in the same condition roughly that it was when work stopped. There's a need for a solution there. He has done, I would say, like 3/4 of what was asked of him, stopping work, putting up the barrier and silt sock, and coordinating that site visit, or at least facilitating it. The only part that is not done at this point is having an engineer signed on to come up with a solution for this. But again, he may be able to, like, an answer on if he's made progress on that, and also condition of that fence that sounds like it might need some more work.
Comments from Matt? Comments from the public? Did you say the applicant is that Brian?
Yeah, he's on Zoom. He couldn't be here tonight.
Brian, could you, did you hear everything that Matt had to say, and is there anything that you'd like to add to the discussion?
Yes, I could hear everything. The only thing I guess I could add is I've like he said, reached out to numerous engineers, and the brief feedback I've gotten from them is a lot of them don't handle the actual engineering, the actual work. They're more consultants, so I should be able to at least get somebody, or at least have an update by Friday on getting somebody out there. But yeah, because I did, I guess, I know we had like a 2-week time period to get all this checklist done, so we did as much as we could, and that site visit was a big moment to kind of assess everything and see what direction things were going in, because with the dam safety people there and the engineers, we're able to get progress on that as well. They're going to be out for a phase 1 inspection, and we're going to try to work with them as well to see if anything can be done, you know, downstream possibly, but we're still going the route with getting an engineer to get in there and assess the situation, to give us a diagnostic and obviously a price on what this is gonna cost to fix. So we should be able to get somebody out there, I'm hoping, you know, fairly soon, but the initial responses have been slow, and I'm just gonna have to stay on them and get an update to Matt, hopefully within the next couple days.
Questions for Brian? All right, Brian, so the intent of the enforcement action that I had asked for was to make sure that we made forward progress. I think you've made progress. I don't think that you made 100% progress, because you didn't, but I think that you did make significant progress. There's a couple of things that I'd like to discuss is that fence, if you're using a pallet, pallets, you know, are attractive nuisances as well, right? So it's almost like daring somebody to climb up and over it. And now it sounds like you've got a hazard where, you know, it's a pond. So take that very seriously. I'm going to ask you to consider, you know, taking some positive steps to make sure that no one can access that hole, because only bad things happen from that perspective. So I'm going to leave that up to you to take upon yourself, because the liability is yours. But just understand the intent was to provide positive means of preventing any attractive nuisances from gaining access to that area where, you know, detrimental effects could take place, and it's a public safety hazard there. So as far as the P is concerned, when do you anticipate that you'll be able to put somebody under contract to assist you with the corrective actions at this point? Because ultimately, nothing's going to get done until you get an engineer to, you know, basically walk you through all the approvals that need to be done, and time is of the essence here. So what do you think?
Well, I'm getting somebody out there, if not, you know, anytime I do anything, I'd like to get 2 or 3 people out there, to be honest. And so, I mean, I don't have experience in this field as far as how fast they turn this around, but I'm hoping, you know, if I can get 2 or 3 people out there, that we would be able to assess the situation and get a quote. I mean, based on working with other engineers on other projects at the facility, they usually can turn around something within a couple weeks. So I should have a better idea, I would think, within a week or 2.
Now, Matt, we're
trying to get somebody out there ASAP, you know, as soon as possible.
All right, but I just want you to be very clear on what the enforcement order said, and I'm going to ask Matt to correct me if I'm wrong, but the language was to engage and put under contract, not to have a deliverable to us, correct?
Correct. There was nothing the only deliverable was the signing of a contract.
Right.
Yeah, the idea was the commission didn't want to mandate filing of an NOI or anything like that without having more assessment done. Partially the assessment that was done with DEP at that site in terms of whether there was a waste site cleanup issue or something along those lines. But that is the next logical step in this is, you know, you could tell somebody to sign a contract with an engineer, but then if there's no set date for whatever the next steps are supposed to be. So, I mean, I think if you wanted to, you could continue this, you know, allowing him to come forward with that without, you know, it's always tricky, right? The commission issues an EO, it says you have to do X, Y, and Z, or we're going to fine you, and you don't always do that, right? Sometimes if somebody, like you said, shows
He showed forward progress.
3/4 of what you asked for is done, and then even that last quarter, there's been some effort made. You know, if you push this off for 2 weeks or something along those lines, I would just say that you would just sort of vote on modifying that language to suit, just so that the EO is still relevant and just has the date changed on it. So whether you want that to be 2 weeks or a month is up to you. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think anybody was there and thought like, this site is at imminent risk of complete collapse now, but I don't know rainfall levels versus what the site conditions we saw, or like what is correlated there. Like if we get a 2-inch rainstorm in one day, are we gonna have overland flow and scour and sedimentation? So I don't think you want this to drag on for too long.
Let me just kind of add a little bit something on that, right? So if you have a hole that's underwater and you have, this, I guess, vaulted culvert, right? And that water is now pooling up, it's going to find its way out somewhere. It's gonna find the path of least resistance, water moves the gravity, and it's going to go sideways until it finds a spot. And then the longer it flows there, the more it takes with it.
Right, it
So
scours,
it
it
can create
undermines.
problems as it's going through the ground. And if it goes into another section and we start underwashing that ground in that area, we open up another sinkhole. So time is of the essence to not rush to get this close, but to move forward in an expeditious manner with all the approval steps and taking all the right considerations. That's why the impetus was put on getting the engineer out there to start that process. No, we didn't say, get it done in 2 weeks. We said, meet with these guys, pick the one that you like. We need somebody on board so that we know that there's somebody steering that ship. So from that perspective, I'm okay, personally, I'm okay to giving them another 2 weeks to get that engineer, the last piece that he didn't fix, before we talk about fines, but I do want to make it
Yeah, we have an
knowing
endpoint.
that that's the intent. We're giving you another 2 weeks to rectify what you weren't able to achieve in the first two. Good job on the first 2 week effort. Let's get there within the next 2 weeks, and then after that, we'll adjust accordingly, I think. If
That's
everybody
fair.
else is fair, accepts that, then I think that would be the good outcome of the discussion. Perhaps do we hear a motion for it?
So in that case, I think you'd be making a motion to continue this to the May 27th meeting and modifying the enforcement order requirement for the signed contract with an engineer, changing that date to the day before. So you'd be changing the date to May 26th.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Mhm.
Okay, do I hear a motion for it?
So oh, go ahead, you do it. No, you do it.
This is a motion to continue.
Motion to continue as he described with, extending the 2
I
week.
think you can wrap it all into one
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable with that, you can do them as separate. I'll be here all night. At least until 7.
I'm out there at 10. So do we have a motion to continue this to May 27th with the understanding that they will have engaged a PE by May 26th?
Right.
And they will provide us with documentation that they did bring an engineer on to assist with the repairs here?
Specifically a signed contract, is that what I heard?
We want to see a signed contract, yeah. So we're just extending the
Right.
previous EO to 2/5/26, and then we'll review it and discuss on the 27th. So we accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion by Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. So we'll continue.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, 19 Blair Drive, continued from an earlier date. Matt, will you bring us up to speed?
Yes, and since I don't recall how many times we've discussed this, I will just kind of read from this here. April 9th, EO was issued under KWPR and WPA, and 4 separate $300 fines were issued to the property owner. Fines were for clearing of trees and vegetation, destabilization of soil through stump and root removal, importation of fill, improper site stabilization. The EOs mandate full site stabilization by April 22nd, engaging PE review to install ESC, and submitting a habitat, that was also by April 22nd. Submitting a habitat restoration plan by May 28th, 2026, to be discussed June 10th. which they may also file an application for any desired work. We got the first two dealt with. We have full site stabilization now. Last time I talked with you, there was a plan where we had, the engineer had reviewed the site, made recommendations, and there was an expectation that the property owner was going to be home to do the work. We have since received a signed stamped letter from Paul Brogna of Seacoast Engineering that all of the erosion control was installed per his recommendations. The silt fence was fixed, being dug in the ground, and the extra silt sock was run across, and he feels now the site is more or less stable from a wetlands protection standpoint. So we have that now, so we're good with those. The habitat restoration plan requirement isn't until May 28th, so the expectation is that would be discussed June 10th. So we'll continue this to June 10th, and hopefully we get the plan in time for that.
Okay. We'll open up comments first to the commission. Any comments from that? Questions? All right, to the general public, is there anyone who wants to be heard on this? All right, hearing none. So it sounds like Matt would like a continuance to June 10th. Do I hear a motion?
So I'll make that motion.
All right. Motion by Marilyn, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, passes 5-0 to continue to June 10th. All right, update 17 Old Orchard Lane admin approval, please, Matt.
Yet another administrative approval of a tree removal at 17 Old Orchard Lane. Again, it's an invasive species. It had damage. It is within striking distance of structure. Had no issue with it. So the same thing as before, no stump grinding. We're expecting an NOI to be filed on the property for raise rebuild and any of the stumps or any other those types of issues, as well as planting of native tree species in lieu of will be included in that.
Okay. Any questions for Matt? All right. What about agent updates on ongoing projects?
I think I emailed this flyer to the commission from town planner Belmassard. There's a resilience project for the Adena or the Harbor Masters area. Public meeting May 21st. Right here in this room from 5 o'clock to 7 p.m. It's a formal presentation and Q&A starting at 6 o'clock with posters available for comments and informal discussion with the project team. This is a grant-funded project that Val has been taking charge on through Office of Coastal Zone Management's Coastal Resilience Grant Program. We have Woods Hole Group and Collins Engineers doing a lot of work assessing the vulnerability of the site. They want to do some work to the site. They wanted to raise the wharf up to be out of the flood area that it really floods. I would say frequently at this point, and potentially in the future make modifications to the Harbor Master building as well. So this does a lot of the early design work in figuring out what the vulnerabilities of the site are and what the best solutions would be for being able to keep the site useful going forward into the future with sea level rise. So just this is something intended for the public to show up and see all this stuff and provide comments. And the commissioners might be interested in that as well. Beyond that, I'll be pretty brief. Falling behind a little bit on upkeep of conservation properties. I have 0 tax work-off people this year working on trails. My intern from Carver High School is done on Friday. And our volunteer stewardship program is still stagnating. And we're pretty well buried by permitting stuff as this agenda shows. So like I went to Blackwater today just briefly just to kind of walk the perimeter and check on the restoration, and had to do kind of a lot of brush, a lot of down branches, and it's just trash and other things that I think I don't know, we need help. But Open Space Committee's been getting more active and starting to do a lot more like site cleanups and planning of things, which is great. But just in general, I don't have the same level of support that I've had in past years of just people that are willing to go around and just check for trash and obvious issues and let us know when there's some issues with the trails. When I was at Blackwater, somebody had taken riprap, which I hate that we have riprap there, but that's a side note. They had taken riprap and sort of Legoed it in on the stop log wear, the notched wear, and then muck and sticks had packed up against that, and the water level of the retaining, whatever you want to call it, the reservoir there, was back about to what it was before we started this project, which is pretty aggravating. It didn't look like kids to me, like it could have been, but it just sort of seemed like the armchair biology that we sometimes deal with when we do a dam removal or some of these sites and people complain about what it was like before and say we don't know what we're doing. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it kind of stunk of that. So I took the time to undo it and hope that I don't have to do that again. The site is stabilizing pretty well. It's tough when you're trying to get any areas that are hydroseeded established. I mean, that was hydroseeded in like August, and they're hydroseeded again in the late fall. But when we can't put water on anything, we're just left to whatever nature wants to provide, and often it doesn't. But I still think in general I didn't see any issues of erosion. It's just there are some areas that are a little sparser than I would like, and I might need to put out some sort of ropes at the entrance because I think people are cutting across, and the seed's never going to come in if we just step all over the whole area. So things like that. I just find that every time I go to a property, there's something like that. I got a call from somebody who is adjacent to Marshall Joyce Wildlife Sanctuary that was pretty aggravated with me because they had called to say that there were a bunch of trees that had been knocked around by the winter, and there was a family connection, to the property having been, sold or donated to the town. And I hadn't gone out to look at it, and I still haven't. And it's been weeks since I got the second
They wanted you to look at down
aggravated
trees?
call. But they wanted me to get it taken care of. They wanted me to get the trees dealt with. Marshall Joyce, we call it a wildlife sanctuary. There's no parking area. You can park at Mulligan's and walk over, but there's no, there's no sidewalk or anything. So it's just up to you to do that. But there's one small trail. I think it's a half acre. It's essentially a house lot that leads up to the salt marsh. It's a cool property for what it is. It's a wildlife sanctuary. Its intent, from my sort of understanding of it, is its main intent is to provide habitat for wildlife, and it's not really managed as something that gets a lot of foot traffic and use. I don't know if that was the original intent, but as it being called a wildlife sanctuary and
there was no intent to make trails or anything.
Yeah, so there's sort of like an unofficial trail just from the road out to Salt Marsh. But really, I don't know, I could, by the street, there's a lot of plantation spruce right under the power lines, and my hope was at some point the power line company was just gonna take care of that for us. I could make a call on it, but it's just, I don't know, there's things like that with a lot of our properties now. And I'm just getting a little stressed that on the public side of things that maybe people will start to complain about that type of stuff. For me, we have a $5,000 a year land management budget for probably roughly 2,000 acres, so do the math. We don't have the money to contract anything. Our staff is mostly bottled up with permitting issues and not able to just get out there and, hey, let's get the saws and go do stuff today. So it's getting difficult, but I guess my point on that is even at its worst, they're still doing their job. They may be less delightful as recreational facilities to people if they don't have a certain appearance or level of maintenance. But no matter what, they're still providing a place that you can get out to, and that wildlife can use, and they can provide air for us to breathe. So that's, I guess, having difficulty having all this stuff reach the level that I would like them to be at. I don't want them all to be super maintained,
No,
parks.
not manicured, no.
But as far as, trails, like all of our trails being maintained, I wanted to do a big project this winter at Bay Farm because our ability to knock the shrubs back off the trails is non-existent now.
Right.
The stuff has grown too far out. Every week it grows back in. I had somebody lined up to go in there with a bobcat with one of those big masticating heads, And the weather just,
Yeah.
like I said, nature doesn't want to play nice with us on this stuff, so I couldn't do the job physically. So that's one more year that we aren't able to keep that property really open to the public the way that we should. So we have issues with that kind of stuff, and if anybody has thoughts on that, sometime let me know. Or if you have people who are interested in just having people, a lot of our stewardship program is people that just let us know where they've been and what they've seen. Like, hey, I went to Silver Lake Sanctuary this weekend and the trail over here is blocked by a tree, or that sort of stuff. Like, I have no idea. I don't get to go out to our properties very often. Like, I wish I did. I'm stuck at my computer all the time now, and like, I'm not out there. We don't see these places. So just to have people walk them, and there's a whole QR code system to just like scan it with your phone and type in anything relevant that you saw, even if it was, hey, it was great, this area looks good, then at least that's like, okay, we know that if we have somebody who wants to do some work, we're not sending them there. So if you know anybody who's interested in that stuff, let me know. It is something that we're going to work on promoting more over time and working on. We just haven't been able to get there. That's all I got. And we didn't hit 10 o'clock.
Wait.
A lot of other grant-funded stuff going on. I'm just not going to get into it because it's been a long day.
Good job.
Thanks.
Closing remarks, the next meeting will be held on May 27th, 2026, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 9:05. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By
Second.
Megan, second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.